Hello and welcome to FSL Weekly. In this week's episode, we will cover a groundbreaking discovery, a human brain fossilized into glass, the tense meeting between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and US President Donald Trump, and North Korea's abrupt decision to shut down tourism just weeks after reopening. Stay tuned. Let's start with an astonishing scientific discovery. Scientists have found that the brain of a young man who died in the 79 AD eruption of Mount Vesuvius was preserved by turning into glass. This rare phenomenon occurred when an extremely hot cloud of ash rapidly cooled around his skull. The glass-like fragments, first discovered in 2020 inside his skull, were initially suspected to be fossilized brain tissue, but researchers were unsure how the transformation took place. The victim, believed to be around 20 years old, was among thousands killed when Vesuvius erupted, engulfing the cities of Herculaneum and Pompeii. The eruption unleashed a massive pyroclastic flow, a fast-moving surge of hot gases and volcanic material that buried the area and caused mass fatalities. Scientists believe that the intense heat from the ash cloud essentially vitrified the brain, turning it into glass when it rapidly cooled. This is the only known case of human tissue or any organic material naturally turning into glass. The conditions for this process are very specific, making it an extraordinary finding. Interestingly, no other part of the man's body was preserved this way. Unlike bones, which lack the necessary liquid content to turn into glass, the brain was protected by the skull, allowing the transformation to occur. Moving on, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky met with US President Donald Trump on February 28th for a high-stakes discussion on Ukraine's critical mineral exports and security guarantees. The meeting, which started amicably, quickly escalated into a heated argument. Trump, who had recently referred to Zelensky as a dictator, initially struck a more diplomatic tone, stating, "We have actually known each other for a long time. We've had a little negotiation spat, but that worked out great for both countries." Zelensky, in turn, expressed optimism about granting the US access to Ukraine's mineral resources, calling it a first step toward security guarantees. However, tensions flared when Zelensky pressed for continued US support against Russia, while Trump dismissed the need for immediate security commitments. Trump insisted, "We will make a deal. I have to get the deal done first. I'm not worried about security right now." The discussion became more confrontational as they clashed over Russian President Vladimir Putin's reliability. Zelensky argued that without security guarantees, it's not gonna work, while Trump defended his approach, stating, "I'm aligned with the United States of America for the good of the world." At one point, Vice President J.D. Vance stepped in, supporting Trump's stance and criticizing President Joe Biden for not doing enough to prevent the war. The meeting ultimately ended on a sour note, with Trump shouting at Zelensky and his advisors immediately escorting the Ukrainian leader out of the White House. Before leaving, Trump reportedly told Zelensky, "You're gambling with World War III, and what you're doing is very disrespectful to a country that has supported you more than most people would admit." Lastly, North Korea has unexpectedly suspended foreign tourism just weeks after allowing Western visitors into the country for the first time in 5 years. After closing its borders at the start of the COVID-19 pandemic in early 2020, North Korea began gradually reopening in mid-2023, first to Russian visitors and later to Western tourists. However, the recent reopening was extremely limited. Westerners were only allowed to visit the remote eastern city of Rason, not the capital, Pyongyang. Their movements were also highly restricted, with no internet or phone access and little opportunity for interaction with locals. Now, multiple tour companies have announced that trips have been cancelled until further notice. North Korean authorities have not provided a reason for the sudden decision, but those who had planned visits in the coming months have been advised to postpone travel arrangements. Rason, designated as a special economic zone, was chosen for its controlled environment, making it easier for the North Korean government to monitor foreign visitors. However, it remains unclear why the regime reversed this decision so quickly after reopening. That wraps up this week's episode. We explored a fascinating discovery of a brain fossilized into glass, the intense exchange between Zelensky and Trump, and North Korea's sudden decision to halt tourism. Thank you for tuning in to Hevsel Weekly. See you next time.